Hi guys, you are welcome to Nestele. Today we are discussing the game of life and how to play it. What we're going to do today is I'm just going to throw like 5 lessons, things that stuck in my head after I listened to the book. The book I listened to it on script and it was just a little over an hour long. It's a very short book, no wahala, or a little over 2 hours. It's a very short book, no wahala kind of book, and it was really nice. So number one is the subconscious mind does not have a sense of humor. There are different ways to actually look at this when you think about it, but basically, what you focus on, even when you don't know you're focusing on it, it's what becomes a reality. Let me make an example. If you're working with a child, and the child is jumping on the bed, you have a greater chance of getting that child to calm down instantly if you say, calm down from the bed or stay on the floor, than saying, stop jumping on the bed. The way the subconscious mind works is that it tends to pick up some certain verbs and just stick to it. So when you tell a child, stop jumping on the bed, what they tend to hear is jumping on the bed, and they have a tendency to continue jumping on the bed. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how the subconscious mind works. So she explains in this book, the author, she explains that the subconscious mind does not have a sense of humor. So what that means is that when you use negative connotations or negative humor to talk about yourself and your life, you are not actually paying yourself a great service, because with time, those negativities become real. We can sit down and joke about it, and it's something that we tend to do a lot, especially for social media. It's funny, we all have our lives and all that, but the thing is that the subconscious mind does not recognize that you're joking. Your subconscious mind, your, how do I put it? There's a part of you, like the part that keeps you awake when you sleep, that doesn't die. Do you understand? There are things that you do subconsciously. When you're driving, if you're someone that drives, if you've driven for a very long time and you're always going one route, as time goes by, you stop being totally aware of what you're doing. That's how some of us can actually take a call on the while driving. I'm not saying we should take calls, but I'm just saying. So your subconscious mind is what keeps working. Do you understand? So your subconscious mind doesn't understand that you're joking. So that somehow becomes a reality. So number one thing that she said was that the subconscious mind does not have a sense of humor. Whatever you say, with time, the subconscious mind takes it as facts and implements it in your life. That's number one. Number two is when it comes to dealing with adversaries, about enemies actually. He said the enemies and ammunition for you comes from you choosing not to forgive the enemy. Now, of course, there are several other things you can do other than that's in addition to forgiving. Forgiving doesn't mean that they get a free pass to do what they did before. Sometimes it just means letting the person go. The ammunition that you give an enemy or an adversary is you're choosing to hold on to a grudge, plotting revenge. Because here's the thing, focus can make you blind. When you're so focused on one particular thing, you tend to not notice any other thing around. Like, has it ever happened to you where you're looking at something, like if something you're looking at something very intensely and you're trying to walk towards it, you might have a tendency to stumble, you might stop your foot on a stone, you might bump into something, you can even hit someone because you're focused on something else. So that's how focus works. Focus blinds you to every other thing. So opportunities of great things happening in your life, opportunities of wonderful things that you can stay and be happy about would fade when you're focused on looking for revenge, or you're focused on this particular person that did this horrible thing to you. Your mind becomes full of this horrible thing that happened to you, and you don't grow. Do you understand? Remember, it's the game of life and how to play it. You want to win in life. You want to be a winner. Okay, so you want to win. Let go of your enemies. Let go of your adversary. I just watched the Tinder Swindler. For some reason, that word enemy now makes me laugh so hard. I apologize if you haven't watched it. Anyway, so the idea is that to win in life, you have to let go of people who have wronged you, people that you consider enemies. You may not have to allow them into your personal space. You may not allow them to do exactly what they did before. Clearly, you shouldn't do that. That's a smart thing to do. But you have to let them go. Let them go. They will lose the ammunition in your life. So that's number two. Number three is that death and life is in the power of the tongue. This is actually a Bible verse. It's very popular. I think it's Solomon that said it. It's either Proverbs or something. It's in the Bible. I think that it's easy for us to connect it to number one, where we talked about our subconscious doesn't have a sense of humor. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. More often than not, you speak yourself into situations that happen. And the thing with this, with speaking, is that when you speak, your mind hears and your mind takes notes and keeps that as a reality. I'm going to talk about this as it pertains to Nigeria. Hello, if you're not Nigerian, I am Nigerian. I'm in the Nigerian space, and Nigeria is one of those places that we have a lot of issues that tends to make us Nigeria believe that Nigeria is hopeless. Maybe it has to do with the media, maybe it has to do with social media, maybe it has to do with our parents. But I know for me, growing up, a lot of times it was hard to hear adults talk about things happen in the country and have anything good to say. It's always like, Nigeria is finished, blah, blah, blah. And imagine hearing that for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and you're hearing this over and over again. You talk about the government, you talk about, things not working and all that. Now, the power of the tongue is not just your own tongue. It's also the tongue of others, because as time goes by, we start to hear. Because I realize that a lot of us young people in Nigeria we are so adamant as to how horrible Nigeria is. We hear people say Nigeria is finished, and they say it like, no. I'm like, do you know what it means for a place to be finished? Nigeria is not finished. We have our issues, but Nigeria is not finished. Come on, calm down. Because if you go to a finished place, I'm telling you, you'll be shook. Thankfully, I've never been, but you read stories, you hear people talk about coming out of places that were finished, countries that were totally dilapidated, and you think to yourself, well, thank God, because if you're in that situation, you don't know how your life will be. So Nigeria is not finished. Please, this is, call out to Nigerians. Nigeria is not finished. Like, we have our issues and it's really bad. But please, it's not finished, okay? Ejo. So the death and life is in the power of the tongue. I feel like for 30, 40, 20 years, we've heard consistently as to how bad the country is. It's not working. It affects the way we do our government work. So it's like, you see people that work in some particular sectors, there's some things that they willingly allow because it's like, it's not my business. Nigeria is finished anyway, or government, everybody will do. I don't know if you understand. So there's no sense of, it removes the sense of dignity in yourself and your source of labor, the way you handle work. When it comes to integrity is gone. Do you understand? So really, death and life is in the power of the tongue. I'm bringing this to Nigeria, even though she didn't mention it, but I'm saying it because it just shows the reality of what I see personally around me everywhere. So that is number 3. Number 4, in the game of life, spend time talking about what you want and do not want. Try and focus on the things that you want. Like, not too long ago, we discussed the book, The Science of Getting Rich. I'll leave the link up here so you can talk about it. But another small book, if you have the opportunity, please read it. I think it's one of those must-read books. But one of the major things that he talked about was your mind. It has to be active. It's like being good. Being good is not the absence of being bad. Being good is actually actively doing good things. So that's the same thing with spending time talking about the things that you want in life. If you want a certain thing, talk about it. Talk to your friends, talk to people, talk to yourself about it. If your journal, if you have nobody in your life, if you live a very lonely life, you don't know anybody, write in your journal about the things you want. Occasionally go back, read it, and then remind yourself, this is what I said I want to. Do you understand? Because there's a saying, us Nigerians, most of us and Nigerian parents told us that this person, that person, do they have 2 heads? Like when people do well and then you're not doing, I will say, do they have 2 heads? I don't know if you understand. People are making things work. People are making things work in this life. Anywhere in this world. No matter how bad things are, there are places those places you see 1 or 2 people that are making things work. At least. Just and you see a handful of people that are making things work. That's not working. A lot of times these are people that are very focused on the things that they want and they go for it. So please spend time talking about the things you want. Don't spend time talking about things that are not working. Do you understand? Remember, your mind doesn't recognize what you're saying as negative or positive. It recognizes what you're saying, period. So if you're saying, this is not working, it's agreeing with you. Yes, it's not working. And you say it over and over again, year in, year out, month in, month out, life in, life out. It becomes a reality in your life. Do you understand? With time, you start to learn that you have to discuss the things you want. If you want to invest, talk about investments. How big do you want the investment to be? If you want kids, talk about the kind of children you have. If you have a spouse, do you understand? If people just got married and you're thinking of what you want to do, sit down. People should sit down. Have paper, have pen, sit down, write. This is what we want. Use colored paper. It makes it memorable in your head. That's either colored paper or colored pen. Write it down. Don't use blue or black. Use red. Do you understand? Or yellow. Use something colorful so it will stay in your head. Write it down. I want a fine house here. I want to live here. I want to drive this car. I want my children to go to this school. I want them to be able to attend this kind of thing. I want them to be this kind of people. Do you understand? Think about those things and make it happen. Please, I'm begging you. We're talking about winning in the game of life. Come on. Okay, so last, definitely not the least. In this one, she talks about diseases. Every disease comes from the subconscious notion of the disease existing. Okay, this personally I cannot say that it is true or it isn't true. But I'll tell you that when it comes to mental health, we know it's in the mind. Mental health is in the mind. Do you understand? I could be wrong, but I believe that the reason why there seems to be a big rise in some certain things when it comes to mental health is because of the way we are processing things. Anxiety and depression. A lot of times we are thinking things should happen faster for us. Entitlements might be involved. Laying too much emphasis on a certain thing that doesn't work. The importance of things like gratitude, like if you're more grateful, the possibility of being depressed is actually very low, and it has nothing to do with everything working out well in your life. But you'll be surprised that things start to work out better in your life when you're more grateful. It's crazy, but that's just how these things work. You get. So don't allow the what we call the reality now be the reality in your mind. See a better future. Do you understand? It's said, and I've heard it several times. People talk about psychosomatics. So people are talking about cancer, how cancer comes from great depression or from great worry. Again, I don't have any proof of this, but this is a common notion. I'm not even sure I believe it. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just telling you because they say it's a thing. Okay, if you're someone that someone very important to me had cancer a few years back, and she went through chemo and eventually died. But what I found very interesting was her very upbeat attitude made the process very painless for her. Now, she still had cancer and she still died. But what I'm just saying is that she could have suffered. She could have suffered 7 long years, 5 long years, but she didn't. She enjoyed her life until she passed. Like literally, she was in the hospital 2 days and she just slept, and that was it. No, you know how cancer is. Cancer is this long drawn out thing, but it didn't happen to her. She went through chemo. She didn't even lose a lot of hair. She didn't get as dark as you thought she would. She wasn't as tired as you think. She was very upbeat and happy about her life. So I feel like, if you look at it that way, it's a little different. Okay, so I said that for the month of March, we're going to be talking about books that I had read before that I kind of dismissed. This is one of them. I think this is the only book I ever read about, and I never talked about it because I just thought the book was ridiculous to me. I'm going to write the name of the author here. I've forgotten. Florence something Swivel or something like that. She's someone that, like, she didn't make a lot of sense to me. She seems to be putting on too many things together in this book. She talked about, she first of all, she brings in the Bible. A lot of times she talks about Bible verses. She throws it in there. And then she talks about people coming to her for treatment. She says, "Oh, someone came for me for treatment because she was having problem with money, and I declared over her life, spirit of the eternal light, come over her and have." I just thought, I'm not doing with this with this person, But however, over the years, I read this book that's the first time I read this book was in 2019. Over the years, I hear a lot of people mention the book again, like people, respected authors that I personally respect, people that I think that, okay, this person under that they're talking about, read this book. This book's actually very helpful. And the first time what I did was I threw the baby out with bathwater. This time I decided to keep the baby and throw the bathwater out. A lot of things she said I don't agree with. I do think it's worth the read. There are several other lessons that I learned from it, things that I should try to change and make to happen in my life. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. Up next I'm going to be talking about How to Talk to Anyone by Lil Lowndes, and I'll leave the link somewhere here so that you can see it and we can talk about it. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.